Hi, I'm Jay Richards. We're at the COSM 2021 conference in Bellevue, Washington, and I'm joined by longtime friend and colleague Bill Dembski, who's going to tell us about a talk he just did. Bill, good to see you.
Good to see you, Jay.
Okay, so you were on a panel with George Gilder, Jules Orbach, talking about NFTs,
right,
blockchain, and a bunch of complicated stuff. So let's sort of break this down. So first of all, what are NFTs?
Yeah. So NFTs stand for non-fungible tokens. So the idea of fungibility is interchangeability. So currency is interchangeable. If I give you $1 and you give me a different dollar bill back, we're all squared away.
Yep.
But for things that are unique, things that are collectibles, if I give you something, you know, an image of Mickey Mantle, and you give me an image of, you know, Fergie Jenkins or something, you know, we're not quit because these are non-fungible tokens.
Okay.
So that's the idea. So this whole business of non-fungible tokens, it really took off in the last few years where people thought, okay, we can take digital collectibles, works of art or things like that, turn them into digital assets by basically putting them on blockchains. Blockchains of cryptocurrencies. And then you have, unlike Bitcoin, Ethereum actually allows you to run a Turing machine, basically a full computer there. So you can, in principle, upload digital files and then also transact them, where then they get signed over to other people, and in the act of signing them over, there can be a smart contract which then signs currency back to you. So there's an exchange of sorts that takes place there.
Right.
So when you look at the NFT or non-fungible token exchanges, they'll say you're selling your digital assets via these cryptocurrency blockchains.
Okay.
But the thing is, it's selling with scare quotes. It's it's by convention. It's by convention on the blockchain. It has absolutely no legal force. And so what I did was I basically did it as an exercise, decided to create my own non-fungible token with some collage image.
And so this is a collage image, and then what makes this unique? That's the obscure part. So there's something in the metadata, or somehow it's embedded in a blockchain?
Yeah, that's the right question, because if you're dealing with a digital collectible, it's a digital file, and digital files can be copied at will and with full fidelity.
Yes,
so they're
exactly the same.
There's error correcting codes which ensure that it's absolutely exact. And it can be gigabytes, terabytes. You know, you can get it so that it's fully accurate. So unlike physical things where a copy is always going to be different, with a digital item, it's always going to be the same. So, so what's different? So what will distinguish it? Well, what distinguishes it is some cryptography. And basically what you had, there was a revolution in cryptography in the 1970s where in the past cryptography was always, it was basically turning things, readable text, into unreadable text so that enemies can't eavesdrop. But the key or the method of encryption and decryption were basically complementary, and they worked the same way. So basically, if you knew the encryption, you knew the decryption. Okay. What happened in the 1970s, it was called public key cryptography, where the public could have a key you could encrypt, but going backwards, using the encryption to go backwards with decryption became difficult, and you couldn't do it. It became computationally intractable. And with that, then you could use the private key to sign things. Basically, you just apply the private key to it. So if I take a plain text, something, in the beginning was the word, I apply a private key to it, it's going to jumble it up. Now you can tell, though, that I basically applied the private key to that by using the public key. Everybody has the public key. You alone have the private key. So then you can say, oh, in the beginning was the word. So I know that you signed it because that's your private key. Okay. So basically the private key allows you to demonstrate that you are able to do something that you can't repudiate, that has your indelible mark on it. Okay. And so that's what happens with these non-fungible tokens. So somebody like Jack Dorsey will take his first ever tweet. That tweet is out there.
No, that's right. You had it on the slide.
Yeah. But the thing is, then he puts his signature on it, and now suddenly, it's not just that he puts his signature, he signs it over to somebody else, to their public address. But you can do all that on the blockchain. But when you do it on the blockchain, there's no real ownership that's transferred. It's not any legal ownership. Now with Jack Dorsey's tweet, it's just, that's that's fair use. There's no artwork. It's not an item of poetry. So you can quote that at full. But with digital art that's out there, it is, belongs to the artist. There are copyright restrictions that apply to it. So if I take a digital photo of you and turn that into an NFT on a cryptocurrency blockchain, I own that photo, but when you quote unquote buy it on the cryptocurrency exchange, if you wanted to post it on a website, you couldn't do it because I could sue you for that.
Okay.
So there's one of my main takeaways was that there's a huge difference between blockchain-based, cryptocurrency-based markets and real markets.
Yeah, because a real market, I'm thinking of something that's non-fungible, like the paradigmatic example would be some unique piece of art that you could sort of scan and make a copy, but Starry Night by Van Gogh, it's just there's one of them, right? So somehow this has to work analogously with a digital good, and I assume that's the problem. Is it's still ultimately a digital good, and so
I mean, in principle, you could do Starry Night. I mean, I don't think a 2D rendering would work, but if you do a 3D, you could have in principle a 3D printer that could, with enough resolution, do something. And if it wasn't Van Gogh, but it was a new artist that did it, it could be an original work of art. Now, as a digital item, it could be copied with full fidelity, but you could still claim it
and turn that into a non-fungible.
And that's the point, to turn it into a non-fungible token, which means you have to sign it with a private cryptographic key. Once you do that, but if you do it on a blockchain, you haven't introduced any of the contractual sorts of, there's no transfer of ownership agreement that's folded into the blockchain. So what I was proposing is, I was saying you need cryptography, but what you don't need a cryptocurrency. You don't need a cryptocurrency blockchain. You could do this in principle on eBay by just basically uploading. All you need is timestamps, upload the item, put your digital currency, your private key signature on it, along with a transfer of ownership agreement. You could fold that all together, sign it, and you give it to somebody else, and you've got actually then a legally binding way of doing it. So the bottom line is, you don't need all this cryptocurrency apparatus. In fact, I would say it obfuscates what's really at issue there. You can simplify it. You don't need the cryptocurrency. You can get paid in ordinary currency, which I think most people would prefer anyway. With the volatility of the cryptocurrencies, it becomes a real issue. I mean, we always say Beeple's biggest, his everydays was 69 million. But the thing is, that was when the price of Ethereum was way lower than it is now. It would be over 100 million.
So explain that, though. I mean, because the reason we're talking about this is there already is a market for these things, right? Even though it's sort of unenforceable. It sounds like
there is a market, but it's I think when you read, especially the NFT exchanges, they're constantly saying we're selling these things. They're using the language of ownership and property, but it's entirely misleading. And it especially ends up biting you in the rear end when you work with these NFT exchanges, because they claim that that you're able to do this, that buy and sell on their exchanges, but there's no legal liability that they take. It's all they're just basically transacting things on these crypto exchanges. They don't. If they go down, your NFT disappears.
So the whole thing. So it's not like you get a thing that goes onto your hard drive. It's embedded in this system of exchange.
Well, it's not just that it doesn't go on your hard drive. It has no legal force. I mean, I can sign over, license to you or sign ownership of something by simply writing. I mean, people used to do this with IOUs. I owe you $5. Sign it, and then you could even turn that into a negotiable instrument by having somebody else sign it. It's the same idea with NFTs, but by putting it on a cryptocurrency blockchain, you actually hide the fact that, because it looks like transfers of funds, it looks like ownership is being transacted, but it's just happening on this cryptocurrency blockchain without any real ownership being exchanged. I mean, it's not going to hold up in a court of law.
Well, and that, I guess so there's a market that pre-exists this having really been tested legally. That's still to come, I think. That's
to come, you know, and you know, and then also, I mean, with these NFT exchanges, most of the NFTs, I mean, if they have any size at all, it's going to take about 13 minutes to upload a 1 megabyte image onto the Ethereum blockchain.
Okay.
You know, that never happens. What they do is these NFT exchanges, they're going to hold that one, you know, however many megabytes it is. I mean, Beeple's every days was 300 megabytes.
Okay.
You know, so what happens is they'll hold it on their server and then have a pointer to the Ethereum blockchain and saying this is what we're transacting. But if they go down, I mean, it's
connected to the Ethereum blockchain.
It's connected, but if Rarible, if you read their fine print, they have no liability. If they, you know, if you lose your NFT, sorry, there's nothing. I mean, you know, obviously, if they do lose it, or if they, you know, if it happens enough, they'll be out of business. Right. But there's no guarantee. Wow. And you know, it's a big problem also on the internet. It's something called link rot, where things just disappear. It's not like you go to, you know, Bodleian Library in Oxford and you pull a book off the shelf and it's been there maybe 200 years, nobody's used it, but there it is. Yeah. Link rot, I think it's under 3 years now that the average website or web page stays in existence, and then it's just gone.
Just disappears.
You know? I mean, there's an outfit called Web Archive which tries to preserve the web, but it's imperfect.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so yeah.
Crazy, fascinating stuff, though.
Yeah.
Bill, good to see you.
Yeah, likewise, Jay.
All right.
All the best.
You too. Take care. Thanks for joining us. This is Jay Richards. We're at COSM 2021.